So this is just a particularly intense hurricane season, some are asking, or is there something else going on here? It's time now for the exchange and our conversation with a climate professor at Columbia University's Climate School. Radley Horton joins us now live from Garrison, New York. Radley, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. First, just give us your thoughts and some of your biggest concerns as you're watching this storm just hours away from making landfall in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the speed with which it intensified from being a tropical storm, winds below 75 miles an hour, all the way up to Category 5 was shocking, right? 24 hours or so. So it's that speed with which it intensified, but also, of course, how intense it became. The impacts, the damages go up in a nonlinear way. Every extra 10 miles per hour of wind means a lot more damage than the previous. So this is a really frightening situation from the perspective, as we've been hearing, of storm surge, wind strength, and also the amount of heavy rain that's going to be falling across much of Florida.
Speaking of heavy rain, when it comes to climate change, the air is warmer, it can hold more moisture, that leads to more rainfall, just in terms of total rainfall. How much of the sort of intensity of these storms, whether it's Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton, is climate change responsible for?
So it's a big part of it. I mean, we need to start by saying that many ingredients go into making a hurricane. Some of them are conditions in the atmosphere, things like how cool the air is very high up in the atmosphere, how much moisture there is in the air. But a fundamental part is the temperature of the upper ocean at its surface, but also down into depth. And that's the primary place in the upper ocean where we've seen this profound warming due to the greenhouse gases that we've been putting into the atmosphere. The last year or so, across the entire world ocean near the surface, we've seen ocean temperatures not just higher than they've ever been before, but far warmer than any previous year. So that's a critical ingredient to giving these storms the fuel that they need. The winds lead to more evaporation, and then that evaporated water fuels the storm, making it stronger in a feedback process.
Yeah, and warmer oceans leads to more rainfall, as we've been seeing with the vast majority of these storms, as we've been covering the past few years. Radley, help explain for us, as a scientist, obviously you're not political, you are neutral, you're following the data. Why it's so important to identify this as climate change being at least a significant factor in the intensity and the frequency of storms like this, because I would imagine that then results in how we deal with these storms and try to prevent them in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the place to start is to acknowledge just how deadly and how damaging these storms can be, right? These extreme events are where we see the focus in terms of the potential for loss of life. Look at the 250 or so people that died recently from Helene, and the potential for damages. As I alluded to earlier, if we start seeing more of these Category 4 and Category 5 storms, which is exactly what the climate models are telling us to expect in the future, largely because of those warming upper oceans, which we're basically bound to see. It's a fundamental element of global warming that is going to increase these damages. So as a society, that can motivate people both to adapt, to try to protect themselves, to evacuate, to build seawalls, to elevate their homes. And increasingly, there's going to be a discussion about having to move away from some of the most vulnerable areas, but not just to adapt. Fundamentally, we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions dramatically to try to minimize the amount of these storms in the future and their intensity.
I mean, in the absence of a massive decrease in the use of fossil fuels, it sounds as though the second best move going forward is to try to adapt. Just give us a deeper sense of what that means in terms of emergency preparedness and resiliency planning.
Yeah, so I think, it's all of the above. It's the emissions reduction and the adaptation, because the truth is, even before climate change, even if there somehow hadn't been climate change, we've seen so much development in already vulnerable areas that now are becoming so much more vulnerable with sea level rise, with the heavier rain for a storm of a given strength, as you alluded to, and with the storms getting stronger. So we face the situation in places like the west coast of Florida, but many other areas where that risk has not been acknowledged. It hasn't been communicated to home buyers, to businesses. So we've seen more and more people moving directly into harm's way. Sadly, a lot of the insurers in places like Florida are not as robust as you'd like to think they are in the face of some of these types of events. So I fear we're really facing a reckoning where we're going to start to see actual sort of financial cascading of impacts.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable people are often going to be the most affected. So we've got ourselves in a real bind.
Radley, thank you so much for the time. We want to take you now to President Biden, who is given a hurricane briefing right now.